We are returning back from closed session regarding the ED performance evaluation. The board was updated, no action taken. And then we do have a member participating remotely under, was there a form?
Yeah, 707.
707. So I do need the board to vote on allowing the remote participation. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second. Any opposition? Any abstentions? As a reminder, everything's going to be roll call vote. And Cedric, will you confirm that nobody over the age of 18 is in the room with you?
Nobody's over 18 in the room.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And sorry, I forgot to confirm that this was posted.
Yes.
And any changes to the agenda?
No.
Okay, and then we did that. Now we're gonna do comments from the public. I do have 2 cards. I will invite Holly Osborne up to speak regarding public comments first, followed by Eric Rodriguez. Is there a microphone over there?
Yes, there is.
Am I on now?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so good evening, this is Holly Osborne, Redondo Beach. And I have long collected articles on ADUs, housing, and arena, and I'm trying to make you guys smarter, okay? So I emailed them to Dave, and I'm only going to talk about 2 of them. I don't think he passed out one of them. Anyway, the first is on ADUs. There was a front page article in the Daily Breeze on Sunday. I know you guys read the paper every day, so you probably saw it on 80 accessory units and rage neighbors. This is in Torrance, and somebody sent me a PDF of it. I don't know how to do PDFs, newspaper articles. So I sent, that's good. I got the PDF, so I sent it to Dave. I hope he sent it to all of you. If I had your address, I'd probably send it to you. But you can see, this is nothing about building affordable housing. It's about making your own house bigger by pretending it's an ADU. That's what the article talks about. Now, if you don't like that kind of stuff happening in your neighborhood, then I recommend you back our neighborhood voices, that petition that's trying to return control of zoning to the local cities, local control. So anyway, I hope David mailed you it anyway, or you can go home and read the Daily Breeze. I don't make stuff up when I come here. I'm very well researched. Now, the second article I just emailed is what cities are planning a development. They have to plan for an escape route. There's an assembly bill, AB 747, and you have to do it. It was passed in 2019. Cities aren't doing it. Okay, now I had to put together an article the old-fashioned way, cutting out the paper, but it's from August 2025. And there's another group called Wake Up California. Some of you have heard Amy Kalish, and they are really concerned about fires and escape routes up there. You have to plan them. There's a law. And then I know that all the PV communities are concerned about developments in canyons. And so please get familiar with it. And David, I know, is going to mail it to you because he told me he would look. I don't see the clock. I have no idea where I am.
Right, one right there and one right there.
I don't see either one of them.
Right here?
Oh, I got 30. That's good. Okay, well, I could talk more, but get me smarter on 2 bills or 2 articles is good enough for me right now. Okay.
Thank you so much. Can we have Eric Rodriguez?
Evening, Eric Rodriguez with SCAG. I'm the LA County Government Affairs Officer. Nice to see all the members here. I have 2 updates. The first one, you see a brochure in front of you. That's from our 2026 SCAG Transportation Delegation in DC. Our Council President Ray Marquez led a small delegation last week to advocate for SCAG's federal legislative priorities. including the surface reauthorization transportation bill, the 2028 Summer Olympics and Paralympics, and games funding, and also housing. Ray Marquez was joined by our first and second vice president, Cindy Allen, and Jenny Crosswhite from Santa Paula. The trip concluded with SCAG's annual California Congressional Transportation Reception that took place on May 19th. It's co-hosted with the Metropolitan Planning Transportation Commission. The event brought together California transportation leaders in the nation's capital to network and discuss key issues affecting the South Bay, from San Gabriel Valley, and the rest of our region. Attending were Speaker Emeritus Nancy Pelosi, both our senators Padilla and Schiff, and also Maxine Waters from Hawthorne. And my second quick update for those who may be interested. I'm here to update you on SCAG Senate Bill 79 mapping efforts. On May 22nd, you may be aware that SCAG published our methodology and approach to those efforts. And this document outlines SCAG's approach on mapping requirements based on the statute. The methodology and approach will be discussed and considered for everyone's awareness at our Community, Economic, and Human Development Policy Committee meeting. That's June 4th, which is a Thursday. That's next Thursday. And that consideration will go before the Regional Council at their July 2nd meeting. We're also holding information sessions for those affected LA County jurisdictions. There's a few here in the room. I think one of them may be Hawthorne, but don't quote me on that. I have a list of it. So we're actually hosting a June 9th information session from 2 to 3:30 for those affected jurisdictions. Again, that's June 9th from 2 to 3:30, and your city staff will be contacted if you are an affected city in LA County. And again, if you have any questions, you can go on our website. Our final SB 79 map will actually, I think, be released June 1st. And then if you have any questions, you can always reach out to us at sb79@scag.ca.gov. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Do I have any more public comments? I know, okay.
Let's grab the mic here. I'd rather do it from my seat.
There you go.
Thank you. Nina Tarnay, City of Manhattan Beach. I'm going a little bit out of order today because I have to leave early for my son's senior banquet. So apologize in advance, but I just wanted to, I know we're taking nominations tonight for the second vice chair, and I'd like to self-nominate and just give you a little, information about why I'm interested in the position. I've been serving in this position since I was elected onto my city council, and I've enjoyed learning on this committee. I've also enjoyed attending the Transportation and Steering Committee, and then now as a representative of the Housing Trust, the Regional Housing Trust. So as someone who's new-ish to this position, I guess at some point I can't say I'm new anymore after a year and a half, but it certainly feels new because there's still so much to learn. And I'm really passionate for the work that we're doing in this organization. And I hope to be a bigger part of it, to learn more and to advocate and to work collaboratively with all of you. So please consider me. It's not tonight. I don't think it's just nominations tonight, but for the future meeting. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other comments?
If you're open for.
Okay. Seeing none, I'm going to close that section. And now we're going to move on to the consent calendar. No changes.
Leave it open. Because you don't want to come out. She's going to cry if she's not.
Put in his, he's non-voting.
Okay.
At this point. He didn't put in his papers, did he?
No.
Is it, Zane, are you planning to come? Because sometimes.
I am, yeah. I'm caretaking right now, but I don't need to vote. I mean, unless we have a tiebreaker issue. I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, consent calendar. And I know we had a member wanting to speak on that.
Yes, just for, I wanted to speak, well, I guess since we're just talking about things, I know I did speak with David to resolve some things, so I just wanted to confirm that the intermanagement services that our COG employees are providing to the trust, that there will be a strict compliance with the hours that they serve that will be billed to the trust and not to the COG, so that there is no basically incurring extra cost to the COG for those who were not part of the trust. Oh, thank you. And then, oh, I have to put it on, right?
There you go.
There we go. Okay. So, and then, but I do want to address more appropriately item G. And with regard to a motion that I would ask us to put that over to the next meeting, so we can hear that along with the budget, which we're going to be approved, I assume, at the next meeting. And the reason for that is the following. First of all, when we were talking about the methodology in terms of the classifications that was done by the consultant, normally in these situations, at least what I've been my experience, we would have a consultant report. So we could see the independent analysis and so forth that the consultant performed. We did not get that last time, nor do we have it this time. And it's and something where I believe for proper due process, we need to have the staff that obviously stand to benefit from any classifications or any increase in the salaries to be removed. So it's not something that they are providing a summarization of what the consultant says. We actually get to see the consultant's report and be able to ask questions of it intelligently. So that's a process issue. Moreover, last meeting, and I have I have the document in front of me for the last meeting. We were told at the April COG board meeting, and this is on page 131 of 176 for the April meeting. It was specifically said in the overview that the proposed revised classification specifications do not, and they underscore do not, allow automatic promotions or salary increases. And so that was the proviso within which we were asked to approve them. But then in fact, I did point out, I said, wait a minute, we put these classification specifications in, then it's just going to be a matter of they're going to be looking around with these cities that that SCAG is one of the comparables for our COG, which is a huge organization. And then it's going to be something where it's just going to be a mathematical formula. So in fact, now we are this month being asked to approve a salary increase that is in fact based on those classifications. And I did consult with my city manager, because as a small city, we have to be very circumspect, as I'm sure you are, with your city's monies, so that we're not doing things that are in fact using monies that we have here that for our dues that are from our constituents. So she looked at it, and she is a person who has a lot of expertise in human resources. And so she wanted to note, and looking at it, that, and again, this is all the conclusions, it's not the report itself, which we should have. I learned from David that there is in fact a report that the consultant provided. So it's something we should have. If there is a report, the board should have it so we can look at the documentation. That's all I'm asking, so that we can have more further review. And I don't know, I mean, of all the city managers, they should be involved in this process and getting that report as well, because there are subject matter experts for finances. So some of the things she, mentioned that she noted in the conclusions that were put in the reports was that this study specifically states that the methodology does not adjust for organization size, making the comparisons unreliable for smaller agencies like our agency. And that the comparison agencies, in her view, are not truly comparable because larger organizations like LA County and SCAG, they have far different budgets, staffing structures, operational demands. And there's a series of line items. I don't want to go through all of them. But, this is something that smaller cities like ours with our limited budget may be disproportionately impacted by future cost increases that are tied to this expanded compensation structure. So all I'm asking is that there be a further review with the documentation provided to our city managers, and so that we can have that review in process before we address it at the next meeting. And that's my motion. And I would ask for a second on that.
Okay, it looks like we have a comment from Zane.
Hi, this is one of the issue that I wanted to speak to actually when I got there, when we get to G, but I have a similar but different sentiment in that I would want to approve G, but also ask for it to come back with the actual comp studies because the analysis that we have, and I've conferred with Councilmember Kalajerovich about this, and she agrees, or she helped advance this with me, is that we just got conclusions, but we don't have real data. Whenever we decide on personnel matters in the city of Redondo Beach in closed session, we have an analysis, the actual comparison of do our positions pay? What does a similar position pay with the county? What does it pay with the other cities, Manhattan Beach, Hermosa Beach, a whole array of cities. And so this is giving short shrift to the employees who work here. And it's not really giving us a good barometer on which ones are going to be vulnerable to recruitment from other agencies, especially the rich county. And so I don't know that just because we're small, we can't pay as well. I think we're going to have to really prioritize, those folks that we want to keep and those services that are critical to our COG. But I guess we can get to this when we get to G.
Well, it's on the consent calendar, so we are.
Oh, it is. Okay. So I guess can we pull it? Or is it being pulled by virtue of us discussing it?
Yeah.
So it's pulled. Can I ask one question? Is there a time limit on it, in terms of voting on?
Well, there are budget items that are predicated on some of the issues that are in the salary ranges. So.
Okay, so I can't make a motion obviously right now unless I follow the AB procedures. But what I would ask for is a motion to approve with direction to staff to bring back the actual salary surveys at the next directors meeting and the next steering meeting for just further analysis and kind of view.
You already made a
Okay,
motion.
I noticed Kim just came out. I just want to mention that we did a complete analysis with the consultant and the staff because they really wanted to hear all of this from the consultant. We had like an hour and a half or 2 hour meeting with the staff. Then we brought it to the steering committee and they did not ask for further information at that meeting. And now it's here. And I just wanted to say that, Kim, I don't know if you wanted to add anything.
Well, I would just add, I'm sorry, my voice is going out and that's why I'm remote today. And you can see the comparables are not only large organizations, they're also small organizations. And the recommendation is to use the top of the range for the median. So that then accounts for the super highs and the super lows, right? So we don't want to account for that. Regarding the comment about size, the consultants, we asked that question also, and the consultant's response was that the job is the job regarding it doesn't matter the size of the organization. If you're processing financial documents, you're processing financial documents, for example. And our organization, while we're small, we hold like about 30 contracts, right? So that's a lot of processing. So we did ask that question because I wanted to know as well.
And my point is that may have been addressed, but the board is the one that's being asked to make this decision. So that's why I feel like it really should be to the board. I know my city manager noted that this proposal has significant increases for upper management positions, some employees receiving 7 to 13% increases. That should be a board decision about whether that type of increase is justified, and it doesn't. Also, we had a compensation study in 2022, so there should be some justification as to why there is need for another major adjustment so soon. Or if there's any demonstration of having any major recruitment or retention issues that would require this immediate salary restructuring. So these are things, there is a motion. I would just simply ask, further discussion. I'm trying to make a discussion to it, but I have made the motion just to put it over to the next meeting. And that can be done concurrently with the budget. It's not inconsistent with that to discuss the two because they're both budgetary.
Yeah, I second that.
Thank you.
And I just want to mention that for good or for better or for worse, our budget has doubled in size, and that does require new employees, looking for new people, meeting the market. And so that's why we did it in 2022, but felt it was extremely important to do it now.
The other thing is we are in the process right now of hiring a finance manager. And right now we're listing that position at a much lower salary range than would be approved by this budget. So that does restrict our ability to, identify and to attract a higher caliber employee. So to keep that in mind as well.
Okay, it looks like Zane has another comment. Zane,
Motion on the floor. We can
maybe
go
it's
about this.
okay. And then I'll just add that my thoughts were kind of similar to what Zane's were. And I'm more zeroed in on I do think the retention thing is for me, the biggest thing is looking at, are these positions, what we're looking at, are these individuals gonna look, they'll be hireable at another agency, and I guess that's more of my concern is that, are we being accurate with them, or are they getting, kind of going through this process, so, and I was at the steering committee meeting and voted to move this forward, so that would still be my thought. Zane, did you have something to say?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. So I wouldn't want to delay this because I do think I've heard directly, and I think Paige has also from staff that they do feel underpaid and left behind at the COG, and that they're not necessarily the lower level staff are not necessarily attended to. And so I feel like, and by the way, obviously we get it I was at the steering committee as well, and we got kind of the first glimpse at this. But upon further analysis in the course of 2 weeks and discussion with my, colleague here in Redondo Beach, we thought, this isn't akin to the data that we get when we're making a decision at the city level. So why is it that we're making decisions based on conclusions rather than on the raw data? So I would want to slow this down. I would want to approve, but ask staff to come back with the raw data so we can see how our staff stacks up next to other folks.
First of all, I apologize for being late, but I did get what was going on. And I have to agree with B. I don't see how holding this over for another meeting so that everyone be comfortable that we're making a wise decision as it relates to compensation. I don't think people are going to run off between here and the next meeting. So I have to say I agree with her.
Okay, so it looks like we have a motion and a second on the floor. This would be to hold item G till the next meeting. So do you want to, and it's roll call, right?
Okay, can I ask for a friendly amendment, please?
Okay.
I mean,
B, would you mind including in your motion?
After the second's been made?
it's already been made, and I think you gotta vote on what cautious. So he's not acting as.
Oh, also I
Public
forgot.
comment,
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah, you're non-voting right now, unfortunately.
Make a motion.
Okay, so I just want to make sure, is the motion to approve the consent calendar and then move G to next month? Or is it
Yes.
just to move G to next month?
Well, I mean,
Can we do,
it's fine. We can do whichever is easiest. It's fine. It's
That's the simplest.
the simplest.
To approve the rest of the consent calendar and then move G
Yes.
to next month? Okay, and the motion was by Rolling Hills, second by Inglewood. Okay, Carson,
Yes.
El Segundo,
No.
Gardena,
No.
Hawthorne,
Aye.
Mosa is not present, Inglewood,
Yes.
Lawndale,
no,
Lamita,
No.
Valley City,
No.
Manhattan Beach,
No.
PV Estates,
Yes.
Rancho Palos Verdes,
No.
Redondo's not present, Rolling Hills,
Yes.
Rolling Hills Estates.
No.
Torrance,
No.
District 2, not present, District 4.
No.
Okay, so that motion does not pass.
okay,
So I'd like to make a new motion
new motion.
to approve, so I'd like to make a new motion to. It's not. There you go. Motion, I'd like to make a new motion to approve G But bring it back to the council or the board for further discussion and I guess review, next month.
With all the
approve
data.
Yeah, with all the data.
So
With the
may I
consent.
just ask on that, to bring it back after you already approved it, what's the actual point?
I think again, I guess I would
So
offer.
you can't re-vote on it again and say no, once you get the information. Right.
Could,
We could send it out.
we could.
We could send out the raw report and then if you could want to.
So you want to rediscuss and then vote against it?
Well, I
after-
mean.
So then what are we doing here?
This board could do that. I mean, because, but if there was something in that information that caused them to reconsider their vote.
Okay,
And it is your motion to also approve the rest of the consent calendar?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so I've got a motion by Lamita,
Second.
second by Manhattan Beach. Okay, Carson?
Yes.
Can I have a point of clarification? So what we're doing is,
oh, can you give Mike?
oh, I do.
Information.
Information.
Point of information, just so I'm clear. So we're going to approve it on the agenda, but then have the data come back so we can get greater clarification to vote it up or down again? I'm just trying to be
It's
clear.
technically not agendized. I think you'll get the information and then if a member wants to add it to the agenda, they can request it be agendized.
Just really quickly, if I can, I was at the steering committee meeting and we had discussions about the reason for the increases. So we felt comfortable with putting it on the consent calendar. For that reason, we want to make sure that we keep quality employees. So that was part of the discussion. But I understand for the greater body that people want the information and they want to make sure that we're all on the same page. And this is why I would support that motion, just for informational purposes. And then, as I understand it, if there's an issue later on, people can bring it back.
And I don't, so, sure, I get what you're saying.
If people want.
I have another question. So if there is consternation after everybody gets the data, then what happens?
Then it can be agendized and re-voted on.
So, but then because we have a committee and that was their recommendation, do we trust committee work or we don't trust committee work?
Exactly.
They didn't have the documentation either. That's all I'm saying.
No, I understand what you're saying, but I'm just saying, but they had enough information to move forward a recommendation to the body.
If I can just say, the only way this is gonna work is if we send it out immediately and you let us know. Otherwise, we won't know what to bring back or how to respond. So if the motion wants to be something about, we will send it out immediately. We have the information. We presented it all to the staff too. But there has to be a date by which you get back to us. And maybe if you get back to us before the steering committee discuss it or we'll bring it back to the board.
So basically what that does is it just really makes what we just did completely and utterly useless. So,
That's correct.
Well, not
Is there a-
necessarily. Unless
no, it does, because what it does is you didn't get the vote you wanted, so now you have the ability to come back and re-vote for it again. So that's, I mean, I'm sorry, but that's what it is. So in the end, we either have to approve this thing as it is, or gonna keep doing motions to get us to be able to bring it back. If the information comes out, because you're interested in the information, terrific, but you have a committee. There's been an awful lot. I mean, this is, how many meetings have we talked about this already? You know, we're talking about a state and a county that's cool with $30 an hour for minimum wage. And we're talking about, if you saw the budget impact, about $22,700. That's what we're talking about here. So my point is, at some point, we got to move on. Or decide, let's blow the whole thing up and start again. But it sounds like the vote went to, let's just trust the committee and then provide everybody with information. But if providing everyone with information allows us to come back next time and undo what we just did, what are we doing?
Okay. Well, this is if you want to consider it this way, a vote for due process, because this is just something that should be happening as a matter of course, where you get notice and opportunity to hear it. If you don't have the information.
I understand,
We don't
but
know.
it just got voted down.
That's,
So now we're gonna go back and rewrite it in a way that lets you come back again for it. And I'm just saying, we can go around in a circle on this forever and then none of it gets inputted.
I think what we should do is, it has been voted on. I think the information can still be sent, you know, it is public info. But if it wants to be agendized, it can be requested, I think during steering committee meetings, because we do you can request, and at that point, the body would, you know, either say, yes, we want to look at it again or not. And that's how we can.
That's
do it.
fair. That's fair.
Which
That
I
was my
think has
motion.
been our
So
process.
I'll make
Okay.
a amendment to my motion, whatever you just said.
Okay, so consent calendar approved, information gets sent out. It can be agendized if the steering committee recommends it.
And that's gonna be sent out immediately, so they have time to review.
Let's define immediately.
I'll have it to you by Monday.
Okay. Jennifer?
I just wanted to ask about the benefits, if any analysis is being done to compare the benefits to other agencies. I think the biggest threat to retention, frankly, would be the benefit. And so I didn't know if that has been looked at. I don't know if there's been any changes in the last several years, but that's just my thought in terms of maybe that's something that should be looked at as well. The salary is one thing, but benefits are very important too. So I don't know if there's been any recent analysis on that.
Kim, can you speak to that?
Yes, so the analysis that was done did not include any benefits. We did ask the employees to give us feedback on what they thought was important to their compensation. And the majority of the employees said we would rather have more money to buy whatever benefits we would like to have on our own. So actually, the benefits have not changed since you worked for us. They are exactly the same.
Wow.
Okay, so we have a motion on, do we have a second? Did we?
It was by Nina.
Yeah.
Okay.
You okay with the amended motion? Carson,
Yes.
El Segundo,
Yes.
Ardina,
Yes.
Hawthorne,
Aye.
Post is not present, Inglewood,
Aye.
Lawndale,
Yes.
Lamita? Yes.
LA City,
Yes.
Manhattan Beach, DV Estates, yes, Rancho Palos Verdes,
Yes.
Redondo Beach is still not here, Rolling Hills,
Yes.
Rolling Hills Estates,
Yes.
Torrance,
Yes.
SD2 is not present, SD4.
Yeah.
Okay, that motion passes, thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Now we're going to move along to presentations. We have commercial redevelopment REAP study findings with beta tool. Jason, take it away.
Okay, this presentation is the culmination of a lot of updates I've been giving over the last few months regarding our commercial redevelopment project and our beta utilization tool. This presentation is going to highlight the work completed. This project is a REAP 2.0 project funded by SCAG and HCD, and it builds off of our REAP 1.0 project, which was previous efforts to identify opportunities for possible use for housing to meet RENA requirements by specifically focusing on underutilized and underperforming commercial sites. As we all know, many of our cities are struggling to meet these RENA targets. And while we continue to advocate for RENA reform, this study provides our cities with tools and strategies to help position these underutilized sites for potential housing development. So for this project, we worked closely with the cities of Carson, Hawthorne, and Torrance. Each of those cities identified 2 sites that they wanted analyzed for fit and feasibility and the different scenarios. We also developed what I've been referring to at this body for this body as the beta tool. This is a GIS tool that is very customizable to look at underperforming commercial sites. Using that, we identified 7 more sites across the broader South Bay. And so the scenarios we looked at were various types, and every city will have benefits from this, not just our participating cities, because they're very replicable scenarios and typologies. And really the goal and what we hope is the result of this project is that our cities will be better equipped to proactively identify underperforming sites and be able to understand how developments might be analyzed from the developer's perspective. So as you look at redevelopment in your communities, you can tailor your approach, what you can expect and what you can expect based off the market. So I'm gonna introduce our consulting team, Studio 111, and this is Shruti, our project manager, along with Will from Cosmont. And they're not here, but also Just the Works, who made the beta tool. And here's Shruti.
Thank you, Jake. Thank you, Jake. We also have with us Alan Pullman from Studio 111, who's here with us today. So good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us. Today, as Jake mentioned, we're presenting the findings from our study. We're calling it the South Bay Cities Restock Study. It's a regional effort looking at how underutilized commercial properties can help address housing needs across the South Bay while also supporting broader sustainable and mobility goals. As Jake mentioned, the study was funded through SCAG's REAP program, and it really focused on identifying where commercial to housing redevelopment can be realistic and not just theoretically possible. The project was a collaborative effort between South Bay Cities Council of Governments and Studio 111, along with our sub-consultants, Cosmont. Will Soholtis here from Cosmont today, as well as Just the Works LA. The study really combined policy analysis, market feasibility, urban design, as well as direct developer feedback. So the findings reflect both planning goals as well as real-world development conditions and feedback we received about that. We go to the next slide. So as Jake already mentioned a little bit, at a high level, the study looks at a pretty important question for built-out cities like the South Bay cities on where new housing can realistically happen. Commercial corridors and shopping centers are changing, and some sites that are underperforming, overparked, or no longer functioning at their highest value offer opportunities for new housing redevelopment. And they are the focus of the study as potential candidate sites that could be realistic housing element sites that are capable of producing new housing development for cities. So the study aims to provide a strategic roadmap for the redevelopment of such underutilized commercial sites to housing. It also builds on work that was done previously with SBCCOG through the SCAG REAP 1.0 grant funding, where we did look at commercial to residential conversion in the South Bay and looked more broadly at whether that process was feasible. And ultimately, the study looks at advancing regional sustainability, housing production, and affordability goals across the region. Next slide. So the study had three major components. The first was the beta tool or sub-regional inventory of underutilized commercial properties across the South Bay. Secondly, we tested a range of housing typologies on selected sites. We looked at a variety of housing types from townhomes to apartments and podium buildings, and evaluated the financial feasibility of those types of developments on those selected sites through a pro forma analysis done by Cosmont. And then lastly, we interviewed developers and reviewed case studies to reality check the analysis against current market conditions and to understand from developers firsthand what were some of the barriers and opportunities for housing redevelopment. So that combination helped us understand not just where housing could happen, but where it is most likely to happen realistically and in practice. So we go to the next slide. So we had 6 broad takeaways from the study that you can see on the slide here. The first seems obvious, and it was that housing redevelopment follows market strength. So in other words, upzoning a site alone does not guarantee that housing will happen there. Projects still need rents or sales value that are high enough to support construction costs and make the project feasible. And we saw this very clearly through the sites we analyzed in the study. For example, sites in higher rent markets like Torrance and El Segundo generally perform much better financially than sites in Wilmington or in other areas like Harbor City, even when zoning allowed similar densities. And so we saw that more often, the sites in higher rent markets were more attractive for redevelopment opportunities. A second observation was that some commercial site types are much more viable for conversion than others. That is, not all existing commercial sites are equal. Large sites with consolidated ownership, excess parking, which is especially a lot of surface parking lots. So sites like malls with out parcels or aging shopping centers consistently perform better than smaller fragmented strip retail sites or big box centers that were often still having a lot of economic utility. And so identifying sites that have those characteristics were often important in finding sites that were realistically positioned for conversion. The third takeaway was about feasibility depending upon both housing type and parking strategy, and not just density. We repeatedly saw that lower to mid-density housing like townhomes and other missing middle typologies often outperformed higher density projects financially in the South Bay markets. For example, in Hawthorne, we'll look at a case study example in just a little bit. A 3 to 4 story walk-up apartment project with tuck under parking performed better than a 5-story structured parking project. So more units did not automatically mean a more feasible project because parking costs were so high. So that's an important consideration for cities to take into account when thinking about the combination of density, parking, and what types of housing make the most sense, both financially, but also for the neighborhood character in an area. The fourth takeaway, speaking to neighborhood character, was that quality of place does matter. Sites near walkable amenities, near neighborhood businesses, close to existing mobility infrastructure, are consistently seen as more attractive for housing and also more likely to gain community support as places where housing could go. And this is something that has reinforced a lot of the work done by the COG on sustainable housing across the South Bay over a number of years. And we just heard confirmation about that from developers repeatedly. The fifth takeaway was something that we did find in our previous round of studies in our REAP 1.0 fund project as well, and that is that affordable housing requires public intervention and subsidy. Market rate projects by themselves with inclusionary units are unlikely to produce meaningful affordable units at South Bay construction costs. And so projects that have layered public financing and subsidies, which typically tend to be 100% affordable housing projects, are the types of developments that really move the needle on affordable housing production. And the last takeaway on the slide here, again, something we've heard before, was that certainty really matters. Developers consistently told us that unpredictable timelines and discretionary approvals can kill projects that would otherwise be viable because the cost of holding the land and holding the project through that process can be prohibitive. So clear standards and streamlined processes are often just as important as zoning itself. So we want to just walk through some of the components of the study that allowed us to get to these takeaways. If we go to the next slide. The first was the site's inventory tool, or the beta tool. And the goal of the tool was to really provide an inventory of sites that identified underutilized commercial sites which were suitable candidates for conversion to housing, really as a resource for South Bay cities to rely on when looking at future potential housing element sites. So we started off by defining what commercial underutilized properties are, basically sites that have low development intensity or a low economic performance. And from there, we then looked at what are some of the priority attributes that make them suitable for housing. And this included a range of different priorities that you see on the box to the right on the slide. And based on all of these factors, we created a weighted scoring methodology that yielded a subset of candidate sites that had the strongest score and the highest sort of priority for redevelopment of those sites to housing. If you go to the next slide. So this is a snapshot that shows what the tool looks like. At the core of it is a interactive map that has layers that can be controlled by the user. You'll see parameters, filters on the side that allow you to access information about sites areas, FAR, building age, variety of factors that you can filter and sort through. And there's also a prepackaged analysis that shows the highest scoring sites from our analysis that were good candidates for housing conversion. So this is a resource that addresses sites all across the South Bay region, although some of the highest scoring sites may be clustered in certain geographies because of the nature of the corridors. If we go to the next slide. So the second component that we focused on was site test fits. So from the inventory, we selected 7 representative sites, which we selected across different city contexts and different commercial typologies. We intentionally tested a wide range of conditions. So we looked at big box retail, industrial edge sites. We looked at sites that had motels, strip centers, corridor redevelopment, as well as surface parking lots. And each site type was also tested against multiple housing types. So we could compare feasibility under different development approaches for each site. We had sort of a physical test fit and then a pro forma analysis to look at financial feasibility for each of those as well. Go to the next slide. We also worked with the partner cities, Carson, Hawthorne, and Torrance, to test 6 additional sites as locally identified opportunity sites. So these were hand-selected by the cities, and it allowed us to look at some of the constraints of those sites, both from a planning, zoning, as well as local context priority, and evaluate how these findings apply in their contexts. We go to the next slide. So to quickly show you how these test fits were conducted, for each site, we completed some contextual analysis, which looked at existing zoning, but also mobility, access, surrounding businesses, the neighborhood character, as well as existing amenities and business clusters within walking distance. The context matters because housing feasibility was strongly connected to the surrounding environment, and sites near active commercial clusters and daily services were generally seen to be performing better. We go to the next slide. So for each site, this is a summary of what the analysis looked like. This is an example site in Hawthorne, off of Hawthorne Boulevard, next to an existing grocery store. And we tested for the same site 3 different housing types that could potentially fit on the site. On the far left, you're seeing townhomes, where we were able to accommodate 32 townhome units at a density of about 20 dwelling units per acre on the site. In the middle, you're seeing a variation that shows 3 to 4 story apartments. And we were able to, in this instance, accommodate about 62 units at about 39 dwelling units an acre. And on the far right, you're seeing a test fit that looked at 5-story apartments with a structured parking garage, accommodating about 99 units across the site. So each of these was drawn to test a variety of development intensities. But through this process, we were also looking at what scale of development seemed appropriate for the neighborhood and what the parking ratios were that could work. So in each of these instances, we also were considering, while the site is in a high quality transit area and could qualify for zero parking ratios, the developer feedback that we heard consistently was that in most places, at least 1 parking spot per unit seems to be necessary because of how car-centric the South Bay still is. And so those were the ratios we used for these studies. So once we had these typology studies, we then had a pro forma analysis that we'll speak more about.
Yeah, thanks, Trudy. Thanks, board members, council members, staff. Will Soul with Cosmont Companies. I'll just run through some of the fundamentals. When we looked at these, we look at on a pro forma basis, do we think that the pro forma could support the potential cost of acquiring the underlying land? So if it's feasible, we said, yeah, you could probably generate enough residual land value, so value left over after paying for the construction costs and developer profit to actually buy the land, or in this case, induce this neighborhood center owner of the grocery store to sell this kind of little piece of parking off to the side. And the disclaimer is that this is a snapshot in time, right? You've probably been around long enough to see changes in development cycles and things like that. You've seen in the last 5 years, probably mostly nothing but townhomes for the most part. There's other developments around the South Bay that do work in other environments, but you're seeing a lot of townhome development, and a big function of that is capital markets. That townhomes are cheap to build on a cost per square foot basis, and you can sell them to an individual for a lot of money or a family for a lot of money relative to the cost of construction. And so that allows you to pay a lot for the land. And so these things work. They're able to develop them versus the more intense apartment multifamily type development typically rely on institutional capital and certain rates of return. And what we've seen in the last several years is that interest rates have gone up and continue now to go up a little bit. And so the feasibility of those types of developments goes down as those interest rates go up. The required rates of return follow, the capitalization rate or cap rate follows. And so the value, the rents might not go down, but the value of that rent to an investor goes down as those interest rates go up. And so that's why you're seeing a lot of entitlement activity still, some development activity in prime markets of these types of developments. And we'll look at a couple examples here in just a minute. But for the most part, that's why you're seeing the townhomes work right now. So on the townhome development, as Shruti introduced, that's about 32 units, 20 units an acre. It's pretty typical what we're seeing for townhomes, 20 to 24 units an acre. It's pretty typical. And in this case, one of the questions was, what does it take to be able to afford that? We ran affordability based on 30% of gross household income. A lot of first-time home buyers, things like that, are stretching themselves more to 40, 45% plus. But we ran the mortgage plus property tax. We excluded maintenance, maybe a little bit of allowance for insurance at 30%. So it's pretty affordable in the scheme of things. And to buy the smaller units in that category would take a household income of about, this is an eye test, by the way, if you didn't know. But takes a household income about $205,000 to buy the smaller units, and about $225,000 per year household income to buy the bigger unit. This property, this property is on Hawthorne Boulevard, just south of 118th Street, I think. So south of the 105 in Hawthorne. The next analysis was a kind of a garden apartment, 3 to 4 story, greater density, almost doubling the density, 39 dwelling units per acre, 62 units. This is surface parked. So it goes back to the question of, can you park it economically and still have it make sense? The average unit size, about 850 square feet. This might be a little bit bigger than you might see some developers doing now in the South Bay, but generally speaking, from a broad market perspective, it's comfortable unit size. At the end of the day, we thought this was potentially viable. If you had an interested party, they could probably do this. This is a different segment, and some of the cities in the South Bay have some developers working in the segment where it's a kind of a smaller to mid-sized developer. They're not working with institutional capital necessarily. A lot of times they've built up investor pool over time. They know how to do this and they're kind of gradually working their way up. Versus this product type, and we'll look at it again in a minute, is that investor capital where they're bringing in hundreds of millions of dollars and developing a pretty substantial asset. So this scale, 62 units, is getting pretty big. If you cut that in half, you might see even more activity from those smaller mid-sized developers saying, hey, this makes sense. But this is not a product that the institutional capital is going to be interested in. So it's a very different segment. Bottom line, thought it's potentially viable. The rent to rent a unit in this, these are 1 to 3 bedrooms in this model. To rent the 1 bedroom would require $110,000 in household income. The AMI, average median income in LA County for a household of 4 last year, we're still waiting on the updates for this year, but last year was $106,000, I think $600. For a 1-person household, I think it's about $75,000. So if you think about $75,000 being the area median income for LA County, and this is 110, you can see the affordability is pretty tough. That's why you're seeing a lot of people sharing places and development activity kind of being constrained in some circumstances. On the larger units, the 3-bedroom works out to about $168,000 per household. And so again, pretty substantially above that household size. And so that would correlate, the larger 3-bedroom generally correlate to the AMI for a 4-person household, 106,000 again, versus in this case, 168,000. You can see you're substantially over 50% over at least what the AMI is. The last one we did not consider viable, generally a function of not sufficient rents in the area versus the parking. And we'll look at other properties in the area here in just a second that kind of buck the trend here, if you will. But when we're looking at parking nowadays, you probably see it in some municipal activities. What used to be $25,000, $30,000 is now $50,000, right? We're still dealing with the inflation post-COVID, massive inflation. We're still dealing with inflation today. There was some rent growth, certainly a lot of rent growth, a lot of rent pressure, but it hasn't overcome the cost increases, and the cost of financing has gone up. And so it is making development more difficult, making a product like this more difficult unless you have really strong rents. Next slide, please. And so while we're talking about these comps, I'm going to get to the developer feedback in just a second, but these are some of the products that you see of late in the South Bay. The first one is Carson Landing. These are townhomes in the upper left-hand corner. This is at Central and Victoria right here. They're selling generally, this is has been developed. I think this is a Brandywine product, in fact, has been developed, has sold. They're selling about $400 to $500 a square foot. If you went towards the coast, that same product is going to be maybe $800, $1,000 a foot, just for reference. The next one, Arrow South Bay. This is actually a CSCDA purchased product. I think it's, I don't know if Hawthorne or Gardena, no, but it's I think it's in Gardena technically. But this is was purchased under a kind of a moderate income tax credit bond formula. So it's purchased effectively by a group that then hands it off to the city once the bond financing is paid off. So it's actually a rent subsidized unit. It's got a lot of market rate units, but it's kind of the missing middle formula. The sweet spot for this type of financing is out of play right now. Could come back into play in the future. But the average rent per square foot on that one is $342 a square foot. So if you're a 1,000 square foot unit, you're looking at about $3,400 a month in rent. Cheap, right? The Apollo, which is a full market rate product developed, I think it's down the street this way, so north, I think. That was developed recently, and that's leasing out at $461 a square foot. So 1,000 square foot apartment, $4,600, right? There's I think it's Kaya that's off Crenshaw and I want to say Lomita, and those are getting up to like $6,000 a foot. The recent Eddie in Redondo Beach, some of those units, the bigger units are getting up to like $12,000 per unit, not per square foot. So 6,000 and 12,000 per unit. So pretty remarkable pricing. Again, so this is not market. Market is closer to 450. This is, I think, heavily fed by SpaceX. This is on Crenshaw, south of the 105. So really fed by a lot of the SpaceX population. And so you've got kind of an island almost there that creates rents sufficient to originally develop this type of product. So this was developed as market rate and then subsequently sold. West Carson Villas, excuse me, that's 100% affordable. It's low-income housing tax credit finance, so it's a completely different breed of product type. Then you're looking back at another, or looking at another market rate delivery. This is in Gardena. This is Cocoon, I think Cocoon 63. It is 489 square foot. Those are all studios. And so while the rent is high per square foot, that was a 400 square foot studio. It's $2,000 rent number, still a big number, right? But then people can get an individual unit at a price that's seemingly affordable, but from a developer perspective, still able to get the rents high enough to justify the cost of construction. And then the last one is the Gable House Bowl redevelopment. If you've driven down Hawthorne, you've probably seen this under construction. We're thinking that rents are going to come in at more than $5 a foot, something like that. That product, the Gable House Bowl, really started at a sweet spot in the market. Generally, they got a pretty decent price on the land, and the rents are sufficient enough that they're able to support that cost of construction with the parking garage. So they've got a lot of parking. They do actually have, I think, 17 very low-income units in that building as well, and that's a function of density bonus provisions. So they can get less setback, things like that, some other concessions. But if you went to the market today, it might be more difficult to get that same building to work. It could still work, but because interest rates continue to have a lot of pressure, it takes a special investor to do that. Generally speaking, with respect to the developer feedback, the market is talked about really favors the lower mid-density. And it's kind of a cap and collar situation where you're really looking at townhomes make sense. This type of product makes sense in the right markets. And then in some other kind of the tertiary markets where the higher density product doesn't make sense, you are seeing kind of some one-off smaller garden home, 3-story kind of developments that smaller developers are doing. With respect to the program, generally speaking, as you probably heard, retail multifamily is difficult to do in many cases. So retail on the bottom floor, it really has to be in a prime corridor, prime market for that to make sense. There's been a lot of push in years past to have that mixed use space. A lot of times it doesn't make sense. As a concession, some developers say, hey, we'll activate that space with our gym or things like that. So there's some activity on the ground floor without having to try and lease it out. You see, even in really strong markets, leasing those bottom floor units can be tough for retail. Parking, as Shruti talked about, there's really very little appetite for not having sufficient parking in a building. Inexperienced developers will come to the city council meeting and say, yeah, sure, we'll get rid of parking. Well, city, we want parking, city wants parking. They say density bonus, you don't have to provide parking. When they go to the market, they don't have enough parking. They go, oh, I should have done that differently in many cases. That may change over time, right? US auto sales are down, they're down to 16 million a year instead of 17 million a year. Some of that's a cost function. Some of that is a generational shift that people are over time getting more comfortable being without cars. But we're not quite there yet. And so developers still want to see a lot of parking, and more importantly, the institutional and the bank, the lenders that are making the loans for construction, they want to see sufficient parking so they know they can get out a loan at the end of the day. In terms of process, as Shruti introduced, certainly the more streamlined and more certainty that there is, the better from a developer perspective. Time is money. And so having that certainty, not having to go to 10 city council meetings, not having to deal with as many CEQA fights, as many community engagement issues, the better for them. Walkability and proximity to amenities, always a great thing. People like to be near stuff that they can walk to. And then the last point, the affordability, despite what the state seems to be saying with RENA numbers and SCAG, things like that, density does not produce affordability necessarily, right? It doesn't go hand in hand. And so to meet the numbers for low income, very low income, all those below market rate categories, to meet those in a meaningful way, not just a few units here and a few units there, really requires the low income housing tax credit model or another funding model, public dollars to get that done. So with that, thank you. Happy to answer questions at the end. Thank you, Shruti.
Thank you. We have a final sort of summary slide. We've covered a lot of these points through the discussion, and I know in the interest of time, we probably want to move to Q&A. So maybe we can leave this slide up here and we'll take some questions.
I just wanted to say before you ask questions, that this was presented to the Hawthorne City Council, specifically the Hawthorne projects. We're going to take it to Torrance City Council and also Carson City Council. If you want any information on this slide at your city council, please let us know. Our consultants will not be available because I think this project is ending, but our staff will be available. So please let me know if you want your own presentation. So.
Thank you. Hello?
Hello, much better. So I know in the interest of time, I don't want to take up too much of it. LA City is obviously a very different animal in a lot of ways. My question was, how do planned unit developments work? Was that part of your study at all? Because I know they require usually larger tracts of land, but given that there's a variety of different products at different affordability levels, maybe that's a way to make it work in some of these South Bay cities. We have Ponte Vista in our district, which was a really good example of it. And it's kind of led to it being almost nearly leased out, rented out, or purchased.
Was that a market rate development or was that?
Varying types of housing, affordability wise, not necessarily. It's more of a market rate product, but the apartments there are add to our housing stock and kind of allow for some prices to go down a bit.
Yeah, I'll maybe address the first part of the question. I'll pass it over to you, Will. I think planned unit developments as a regulatory tool, they offer flexibility, which is, I think, their primary benefit. So especially for larger tracts of land where, there can be more tailored design standards that address the very specific needs of that site. They provide a lot of flexibility, whether it's to do with allowing a range of development densities on the same site, providing very streamlined objective design standards that make the review process very efficient. So from all of those perspectives, I think they can be a powerful tool. But I think, again, it comes down to what the context of that site is and really where the market is. And even that, to a great degree, is sort of a cyclical thing. The market changes, and with that comes different opportunities over each span of time. So in terms of helping streamline housing production, yes, especially for larger sites, PUDs could provide some flexibility. But in terms of affordability, I think that might be a larger question to do with the market.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the specific project. I would say in general, planning to develop, if the developer comes to the city and says, I got this big piece of land, are you willing to change the zoning, things like that? There's an opportunity in that change in use, change in zoning to try and exact concessions, of course, as an opportunity. Additionally, they're going to come in theory with a project that makes financial sense for them. It does vary in the market. I think the opportunity there is, if it's not cookie cutter, you've got an opportunity for different unit sizes, housing sizes, mix of product type. Smaller unit sizes tend to generate natural affordability for people. The push or the move to have ADUs is kind of in that same vein, in that now you've got a 400 square foot unit that even if you rent it at a fair price, a decent market price per square foot, the actual rent is reasonable, and so that's an opportunity. Generally speaking, I think it would say it requires kind of typically a bigger piece of land than we're really dealing with in the South Bay. There's some one-offs, we're seeing some conversion as well, but I think from a planning perspective, better if the city doesn't say, here's what we want to do here necessarily, or have some flexibility in that, have the developer come to you in terms of what can make sense, and try and, if you have goals with the site, try and work with that. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, it does definitely. And then final one, because I saw that there was one product, I think, that you guys put up there for the townhome project where you had an existing grocery store and you were able to purchase a portion of that lot. Does that trigger typically, I know for us it would, does it trigger a requirement to the existing grocery store development to have to rework their agreement with the planning department in terms of the parking that they were originally entitled with? And does that present a longer term issue?
I would imagine the answer is yes. And in terms of those types of complexes, they usually have fairly defined parking agreements that dedicate spaces to each of those businesses. So that would be a part of what they would have to negotiate through that process.
Thank you.
Okay, Zane, I saw you had a question, and then after Alex.
It's just real quick, reciprocal easement agreements typically in place. So if you don't have everybody on board, ideally you've got a single owner that controls the entire area. Macy's had a lot of leverage in a lot of malls that it was in because they had these REAs that it wouldn't give up. So if you've got common ownership, it's easier. To the extent an entity is coming to you, so the ownership structure is coming to you, the city, to ask for it, then you have the opportunity to evaluate the parking situation and see if it's adequate. Makes sense. Thank you.
More of a comment, but everything that you're saying is absolutely true relative to what we're seeing in Redondo. On 182nd and Kingsdale, we had zoned it for about 50 dwelling units per acre, and the developer came in with a townhome project, much less intensity. I think it's like 25 dwelling units per acre. This is kind of crazy. I'd never seen this before, but on another major corridor, we had entitled, pursuant to state law, we had to override our planning commission and entitle 49 residential units on top of commercial use. Then we saw the property up for sale. So we met with the owners. Hey, what happened here? You said you were going to develop it. And they said, well, okay, here's what we're doing. We couldn't get the financing that we wanted, especially for the commercial component. And so, which is a high-end area, by the way, speaking to your point. So what they're working on is converting some of the commercial area into ADUs to get more residential units, and then potentially make it more viable. And then their parking actually looks more appealing because they now have parking that really adequately is adequate for the 49 plus ADU development. So just an idea I'd never seen before, converting commercial space to ADUs in a building.
Yeah, I appreciate the question. I live 3 blocks from that site. Very familiar with the project. When it got approved, I thought, I don't think this developer knows what he's doing. They also, it was under state laws, approved under state law that allowed that density with some affordable, I believe. It was with affordable, also requires prevailing wage. And this will be interesting to see what happens. They are required under that provision to have both mixed use and prevailing wage. And so it'll be interesting to see.
They're going to keep a commercial component, just not the whole thing.
Yeah. So we'll see. It'll be interesting. I saw that it was up for sale as well. So sometimes it's easier to sell a project than to develop it.
Okay, Alex.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Alex from Hawthorne. Again, I want to say thank you for that study, because that's going to help us with our housing element and for our overall specific plan that we try to do again. But I have to tell you that thank you, Jackie and Jake, because on Tuesday night, my mayor did not understand the concept when we're talking about this commercial, to redevelop them into, because we do have a lot of vacant properties in Hawthorne. It's only commercial, and they're not specifically in the residential area. So he was not too happy about it. So he almost killed Jake over there. So I have to go to defend and call my planning director to explain clear what we were trying to do, right? My question to you, because there was a project that was just finished. I don't know if you're familiar, especially Cosman, right? Indigo, they call it Indigo on Al Segundo. And I was surprised that you didn't put the statistics over there, because right now, no, they're selling those townhomes between 700 and close to $1 million, right? Right there in Hawthorne. So can you dwell on that? Because when you look at the family median income in Hawthorne, it doesn't get to 100,000. So.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. I am blown away by pricing and what people are able to actually report. People want to live here, and so they're willing to live as close as they can. There was a house we were on a meeting that was in Harbor City that was adjacent to a park. It was a shotgun house, 2,000 square feet, and it's selling for 1.2 million. And it's on a major road. I go, wow, those are prices that you'd see in other neighborhoods. And so there's a lot of competition. Certainly the interest rates are going up right now, so there might be some pressure. But yeah, that $500,000, $700,000 townhome, you put that even closer to the beach and it gets even more exorbitant. It's exorbitant where it is, generally speaking. But people want they want to have their home, and so they're willing to pay those prices, and that's what developers see, and they're responding to that and building the units that somebody can afford. It's not a single family home, so it costs less, right? But it's still an ownership opportunity for people. So that's, I think the reality of the market is you've got a lot of people who want to be buyers and owners.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so I've got one question. You kind of showed the South Bay map, kind of characterized the opportunity map, right? First question would be, what's the next steps? Where do we go from here? And the other question was regarding data. While this is focused solely on commercial, I suspect there's some residential. I know in Lamita, we've got some big lots, one little house on it. So can you talk about maybe the potential opportunity space?
Yeah. With respect to the beta tool, that was the first part of the question. That will be made available to the cities. And that tool basically did an analysis using all of the parameters we talked about, right? And so it highlights the sites that have the highest likelihood for conversion to housing. And it highlights the sites that are most suitable based on a variety of factors to do with regional sustainability. So that will be a resource available to all of the South Bay member cities. And the beta tool has to be finalized and made public for that to happen. So maybe Jay can weigh in on that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's gonna be something that we will also continue updating. We've made sure that in the development of it, like all the resources, the data sets are easily interchangeable as new versions come out. So we'll house that, whether it's on our site or just internally, to keep it replicable. And we've actually discussed, they'll probably come back at maybe a steering or a board when it's finalized to walk you guys through it or something like that of how you can use it. Also happy to meet one-on-one too.
Yeah, because the Housing Trust just approved a development in Hawthorne, for example, right? And so I'm just thinking about it from that context. It wasn't a commercial space, it was residential. So how do we, again, get that into the trade space for, across the South Bay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I was just going to mention that this study's focus was commercial to residential conversion. There might be others in the works to look more closely at other types of sites as well.
Yeah, I was gonna just emphasize that it was very much underperforming commercial sites, and that's what the beta tool will reflect. Because it was really about the struggle of when adding those allocations for Reno, where else is there left to look but those underutilized commercial? So how to create customizable filters and toggles to meet the city's needs of when looking at that. We have to get creative to meet these Reno numbers, and this is one of the strategies.
I also want to say that that's not a subject for this board, but the trust board will be hopefully talking at the next meeting about things you want the trust board to authorize studies on. And maybe they have technical assistance money. Maybe there's something that you want to take from this and have a further on study done by the trust.
Just to add, specific to Lamita, generally speaking, you don't have a lot of large lots commercial. We've got some, but not a lot of large lot commercial. But with the comment about large residential lots, to the extent that there's community appetite, there's certainly an opportunity to do things like two on a lot or make smaller lots. And that's kind of a more gradual intensification if there's an appetite for it. That said, if you look at places like in Torrance, things like that, where you've got major commercial parcel, they're able to develop 400 units on 2 acres versus the intensification required to get additional 200 units in the same in Alameda and neighborhood would be 200 homes being converted into two on a lot or similar.
Yeah, I mean, because we've got, condos going up on 258th, condos going up on Oak Street. So again, there's opportunity. I think the opportunity for us is right now is condos and no longer the mixed use. In order.
And it's a good comment in that it is unique to see those condos. I would say that there are a lot of developers have the mindset that they don't want to deal with the liability issues. They've got the 10-year insurance issues. When you do the math, it doesn't appear to be as much of an issue as some people say, but I think increasingly you'll start to see more condos. The project that the council member mentioned on Pacific Coast Highway, that was a condo development. The resistance is often in lenders, that the financing isn't there for condos. So if it's smaller projects, they can get a different, there's different lenders in the smaller product. And so they're willing to take the risk of, it's on the sales side afterwards. So with a multifamily, you get to, there's a lot of certainty that you're going to get occupancy after the fact, versus on the condo sales side, there's uncertainty and uneasiness about selling it. So it's great to see more condo product being developed. I think there's a real opportunity there throughout the South Bay.
Right. I'm gonna just entertain 2 more comments just because we're really behind on the schedule. So we'll do Mark and then we'll do Wally, but we do have still the budget discussion and then 1 more voting item and then the mayor has to get going too, so.
Real quick question, in regards to this beta tool, is it just going to be available for us and our staff, or would developers also be able to have access to this? Or was their feedback all the access that they need to provide for this tool?
The tool was developed primarily for the SBCCOG and its member cities, so the goal is not for it to be available publicly.
That's right. Yeah, we will be providing US cities access. We likely won't be putting this on our website as a public.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Wally.
Yeah, hi, everyone. I wanted to thank the consulting team. We've worked with Shruti and Will for almost 3 or 4 years now. They just do top-notch work, so really appreciate that. I also want to acknowledge our staff. Jake and Shannon both were in project management, who really make this stuff happen, and they did just a great job working with the consultant. Two points I'd like to make. One was on the tool itself. We insisted on having 2 of the criteria actually being proximity to jobs and proximity to other destinations. And so when you start evaluating your own sites that's something we look at, because that gives us a chance to get a walking world in which we don't have to have mobility to do it. The last thing I would say is I want to call attention to what is not in the contract. The HCD and SCAG require construction. That is part of their build, baby, build emphasis on stuff. And talking to Will and Shruti afterwards, and I looked it up on AI, if you buy rather than build and rehab it, you roughly take half the time and it costs half the money. So as you go forward with the trust and stuff, remember this was required by the HCD and SCAG to look at a construction scenario, but it ain't the only way to fly. Thanks.
Okay, thank you so much for the presentation. It looks like we may have to bring you back at some point because there are a lot of questions, but I appreciate it. Thank you so much. You have to go, right? Okay. Is it okay if we get a brief update about Metro and then we'll jump back into the budget?
Yep. Real quick. The Metro budget continues to face severe systemic operating deficits. However, the good news is for this year, we achieved a $9.7 billion budget with $233 million in reserves, 2.3% increase over fiscal year 26. Bus services are going to cost us $1.9 billion, reflecting a 2.3% increase. Rail at about $1.035 billion, with a 3.8% increase, including the recently opened D line out to Beverly Hills. The budget maintains the current 8.8 million bus and rail service hours, 8.8 million. And we've achieved this through using most of Metro's carryover fund balances and bond funding for capital projects. Now, in the coming years, it's going to be extremely difficult for Metro to maintain a balanced budget unless there are contributions from the federal government. So it's our hope, and we continue to work hard at getting federal transportation dollars. If anybody had any questions? Thank you, guys.
Did want to
Thank you for indulging.
quick comment.
Mike?
Thank you. At the last Economic Development Roundtable, Inglewood staff did a great presentation on the things that they're doing in preparation for the Olympics, and they're going to be helping the rest of us. So anyway, kudos. Really, really super job.
And how many tickets do you want to FIFA?
Being a good American, I don't care about soccer, but I'm sure it'll be great.
Thank you very much. I'll pass it on to staff too.
Honestly, I was really impressed.
Thank you, sir.
And I'll take two. Okay, let's jump back to the budget presentation. Jackie, you're gonna give it.
Kim is not as under the weather. She's here to answer questions. She would normally do the budget. This is a meeting where we discuss the budget and then you give us any feedback. We go back, take it back to the steering committee. They give us more feedback and then it comes back at the June meeting for adoption. If there's not a lot of feedback, we put it on the consent calendar in June. So that's the way we do it. Next slide. The comparison here, and first of all, if you want to follow along, budget starts on page 84. But I'll go through these slides. The comparison to the previous budget, and if you look on page 84, it's really the mid-year budget column, which is in the middle, that should be compared to the proposed budget, which is what's on the slide. And you can see that our revenues and expenditures have jumped by double. And this is really due to the Measure A homeless funds that have come in primarily. We are showing that we're going to have the change from the mid-year budget to the operating budget. That's an old number, isn't it? Well, it shows that we have restricted reserve that is still meets our policies, and that our revenues and our expenditures allow us to have a balance, which you're going to see on page 84. The budget surplus is 218,663. Let's go to the next slide. This is our circle graph, which gives you the indication of what the expenditures and the revenues are. That's on page 85 for you to actually read it better than what you can see it there. And you can see that the green, which is homeless services revenue, is what, and homeless services expenditures is what is the biggest piece of the pie right now. Next slide. This you can go through the budget that's in the agenda, but what we did is we have our errata sheet, which is really explaining to you what's new and what's carryover, what we don't have anymore. The trust is going to be getting 7.154 million, which you just authorized in the consent calendar. The trust is also contracting for the COG services, and therefore some of our services will be offset now by charging the trust. And the contract with the trust is about 780,000 for the coming fiscal year. Our housing programs, which really is the RHPH, Renter Protection Program, which stays with the COG, is going to be about 2.5 million. Then we have Measure M, and we're going to be doing an intersection safety analysis, which is funding that the COG will be using out of Measure M besides the funding that we've given to cities. Our housing trust and commercial redevelopment is gone. The project you just saw and the project that formed the housing trust is no longer in the budget, which was over $500,000. After waiting 2 years, we've been able to get the SS4A grant, which is a safe streets, bike safety kind of grant. And we're going to be, that's like a 3 or 4 year grant. So we'll have that for a while. And then we're extremely excited to be able to say that we got the biodiversity grant. You'll hear more about that, but it will help 3 cities with very specific projects, and our staff will get about $50,000 that will not be going to consultants. A lot will go to consultants. Next slide. Salaries and staffing increased by 628,000 to handle the increased workload. We're going to have less contractors by 330,000. Homeless services is going to have more contractors because we have more funding where we're going to be paying cities and nonprofits and other agencies to do some of the work. Tonight, you let a contract to the Public Defender's Office, for example, one of the sub-consultants that we're going to be using. City reimbursements, we are giving cities 1.8 million out of that, and then the trust itself, once again, we're going to be passing through money that's going to go to the trust. Next slide. We still have a pending grant, which we're hoping to hear about in the coming months, and that would bring in another 400,000 if we get that grant. Next slide. And so I have questions. I really draw your attention to the detail, which is on the following pages. And page 89 is the fund balance page, which tells you how much money we have remaining in the account. So I'll be very happy to answer any questions. And as I said, this is only for you to give us questions and comments, and then we'll bring it back next month.
Yeah, Jack, a couple of questions. Going back a couple of slides where you showed the 700 and some thousand dollars that the COG was going to be giving the housing trust.
Right.
We mentioned I heard the financial manager earlier. Do we have the resources within the COG today to spend that per se, or it kind of goes back to B's comment, hey, we want to make sure that the staff is charging the trust when they're doing trust activity. So just kind of wondering about staffing to support that 700 and some thousand.
Well, right now we're short-staffed because we don't have a finance manager.
Right.
But we are making it up, and we have a system called Clockify. I don't know if you've used it, and we all are charging whenever we work on the trust. We charge to the trust, so we know that we're going to be charging that 779,000 or some element of it. So because we are keeping those hours separate right now.
And it's not just that 779 is not just staff hours, it's overhead costs.
Yeah,
Bought laptops.
Inclusive.
Yeah, that's everything.
Yeah, we put the office
Budget
rent.
rate, if you will.
Yeah, we've taken a lot of the COG overhead that we're supporting with the trust because they don't have to have an office, they don't have to have a boardroom, and so that's also part of that.
So Jack, what I wanted us to see maybe, for example, you mentioned about the 628,166 staff increase, right? So I would love to see of that money, for example, how much is coming from the city's fees assessment versus all the other programs. So if we would divide per se all the salaries, right, to show how much is coming from our assessment fees that the city pays every year, right, versus all the other program, how that money is distributed across the board.
We actually don't do it that way. Dues bring in about 500,000 plus. So they're not covering even the salary increases.
And that's just basically, I think, to clarify what B was saying, is to make sure that you show that most of the salary is not coming from the assessment, right?
All of
From
our-
the cities.
right, and
So
all
it's
of our
coming from all the contracts programs that we have.
That's right. And all of our employees are at will. So we lose those contracts. And unfortunately, we have the potential to lose that employee.
Jackie, I would just add one other thing. The way that you can also see that is by looking at the pie charts, and you can see how much dues contribute to the organization and how much contracts and grants do, and that we do a lot of leveraging. So, for example, all the environmental services programs are actually leveraged. So the dues don't cover very much of any salaries at all.
That's always been true. Yeah, it is there. But you see what for me, when I was doing budget, for example, for the federal government or for the state, they wanted to see, okay, how much percent is coming from this program, that program, that program, that program, that program, the total 100, right? Because that is the accountability to make sure that we were not spending their money in overhead costs.
saying that.
If we have a surplus of 218,663, is that the surplus that we have?
Yeah,
Or we'll have
it's
just.
not a surplus, it's just, well, it is. a surplus,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes, it is a surplus. It's a surplus budget.
So if we get this data that, in response to Bill's motion, thank you for that, Bill. If we get that data and it shows that we have groups that are not near the median or well below the median, can we use that surplus to adjust, pay for those groups?
That's a good question. You should be in the purpose, in the interest of transparency, you should know that the actual salary budget, as is in the budget right now, includes a pool of money for salary increases. It includes cost of living and merit, just a pot. And then, so we will now decide when we've told the employees this, when we have a performance evaluation, we will decide what part of that pot that employees will get. And as you read in the memo, there are certain ones that are below the minimum, they will get a bump. And all of that has been calculated in this pool. So know that 218 will not be affected.
Okay, and so has the COG or the board laid out, a policy objective, like it's our goal to be at the median? It's our goal to be 5% above the median or anything like that? Or what's your target in making adjustments to the employee's salary?
Our target is, well, Kim, do you want to answer? Because I don't
Yeah,
know.
sure. So the recommendation from the consulting firm was to be the median of the range for the top of the range. And then they did a calculation for what the full range is for us so that we have an entry level, right, and a mid level, and then a high level. My thought is that you need to, in your budget cycle each year, increase your ranges by at least 3% to keep up with inflation. All the staff fall in different places within those ranges, but the ranges give them the ability to have higher salaries when they perform well, right? And that's what you want to do, is you want to be able to, they're not going to bump out the top of the way that they're set up now. And then we probably need to do an evaluation every like 2 to 3 years on the comps again. And then we can always make sure that we're staying in line. So that would be my thought based on the conversations we had with the HR consultants.
Any other?
I mean,
I just have one thing. I know that several years ago, when Frank Sarunian was here and this issue came up about putting the budget on the consent calendar. And I realize this is just for questions, and we'll have an opportunity to review it for the next month. But I think it's important, and that's something Frank raised too, that he's never seen it, where you're going to have a budget approval, it's always on the calendar. It doesn't have to be pulled off, because that's a very seminal part of the decision we make as a member of the board of directors. So I just would ask that we put it actually on the budget, on the calendar, and not require somebody to have to pull it off just to have a discussion and approve. I just think it's part of the process of what we should do.
That's your decision. We do it this way because you will have seen it 4 times. So, it's up to you. We'll.
Any other questions or comments?
Well, I mean, so you're saying, so just to clarify, you're saying like, that's your decision, meaning that's my opinion, or is that something that you're saying that, okay, so you're saying I have to make a motion to actually have it on the agenda when you make a statement that it's going to be on the consent I'm just wondering.
This is, we've been doing it this way for many, many years. So if you want it different, I don't think I can make that decision. I don't know.
Yeah, so I think because it's always been that way, it would be more of a board decision. So if you want to ask the board.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to get the feeling from the board. I mean, do you think that's something that, I mean, it won't take very long if people don't have questions, but to have it on the agenda.
But isn't it on right now?
No,
Isn't that
no,
what we're doing?
this is not for approval. This is just have discussion.
Right, so the idea is if you see something wrong, right, you point it out. And then they make a change to it, if you have a consensus. And if you don't have a consensus to make a change, it's not gonna get changed, right? So it just seems we can't not land the plane on anything in here. It just drives me nuts. But if you've already seen it, this is probably the fourth time we've seen this?
No, it will be the
The fourth time on the next agenda. All I'm saying is, isn't now the time to call out the problems?
Okay, I am not a finance expert. I take this to my city manager and so forth. So I'm gonna have to get input, but all I'm saying is that, I just think, and this is something that I know that I wasn't the only one. Frank mentioned it. He was a member, he's not here, but he's a member of Rolling Hills Estates City Council's been one for a long time. And it's just saying it's part of protocol. And maybe it's because both of us are lawyers. We just kind of look for process, but it's just something that we do in our councils. We never have our budget on a consent calendar for our council. Why would we do it here? That's all. I think it's important.
This isn't consent. This is for discussion right now, right?
Yeah, but this is not,
So I guess what we're saying is, do we want to bring our city managers to the meeting to go over this?
no, that's not what I'm saying. Anyway,
But it-
I'm not trying to get an arm. I just wanted to raise something. If you're, if people don't want to do it, then we'll just leave it. And if there's some
So-
issue, I'll have to pull it off again.
Yeah, and then there still is the option to pull items from consent for further discussion.
But also the whole idea of this is, you should make comments tonight. If you do not have comments tonight, it was in the packet. So you can give it to your staff, come to the steering committee, or have somebody bring your comments to the steering committee. That's the next time. And then at the steering committee, we pretty much finalize a recommendation to bring to the board. And that's why it goes on the consent calendar on the board, because that is the fourth time it's been out.
And at that point, the steering committee is gonna make a recommendation to the board to approve or not, right?
Right.
Okay.
So again, that goes back to.
Yeah, Barry had a comment.
So this is. It's different from the city budget process because in the city, we have a budget hearing. And, where we go through it and at the end of it, we take an action. With whatever changes. But in this case, we've already gone through that multiple times. So when we get to the actual approval, at that point, it's just a pro forma action because we've already done the work. And if we're going back and doing the work at that point, then we didn't do our homework. But it's different from the city, from the city process because it's a different type of body. That'd just be my answer. But, if you wanted to, we can just pull it at that point.
Are there any other questions or concerns? Okay, so it's been presented. You can, and any backup information you need, just make sure to let staff know. So we're gonna move along now to the action items. We have the first one, appointment of the league. This is the COG, right? Representative.
Right. The COG has a representative on the League of California Cities, LA division as the regional director. And our current representative is Barry Waite. And when we opened it up for, what we have is, if there are no terms on an appointment, we create a 2-year term here at the COG so that other people can have an opportunity to participate. So when we opened it up for nominations, Barry put his name in and Bee put her name in. And so we have, the steering committee decided they did not want to make the decision. They're sending it to you with no recommendation and just ask that the board make the decision. So I don't know if you want, at the steering committee, we ask each person to say a few words, but you can decide how you want to handle it.
I'm gonna give you each 30 seconds because we're really behind.
Oh, yeah.
Although you guys have your,
Yeah,
things,
it's in
so,
there.
yeah. Or did you want to make a statement or?
If you want, you could read my book.
Okay.
I should warn you, it's a textbook. So, okay, I'll just be quick. I'm looking at the clock, so I'm already 5 in. I've worked with the COG a long time, including as a staff person. I chaired a working group. And I have worked with the league as a long time when I started as a legislative analyst in 1987. So I go way back on this, but I don't intend on doing this forever. I think it should change on a regular basis. And I think that's the way we should do business. I'd like to continue for now, but not forever. I think that's a healthy way to do it, and I want to represent all of our cities.
Okay, B.
Okay, and essentially, yes, I have my statement here. And I would point out that I've been on the COG since 2013, since I was elected as the representative. And so I know pretty much the positions of the COG. You can tell I advocate and I get into details about things. I would just simply say, I think it's something important to consider. We already have Bill, who's not only an officer here at the COG, but he's an officer at the League of California Cities LA Division, the body that we're considering appointing to. So he's going to be there for the next 3 years. So I'm asking just for a 2-year term, so we have another COG city available here to provide input on behalf of the COG besides Lomita, which we already have through Bill. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So are we how are we voting?
Well,
Just
just
call
call each
each
public
city.
vote anyway,
Yeah.
yeah.
So just
wanna
call
just-
each city and they can say the name again.
Carson is very not here anymore.
Carson left.
Wait,
Oh,
do
so we
we
don't
have
need
a
to
vote?
I don't have to do roll call anymore. We have a
We still have.
Yeah, we have a quorum.
We still have. a quorum.
Yes.
Okay, El Segundo, very good.
We got a
Ardina,
B.
Hawthorne.
Come on, dude, you gotta make a decision. Put me on the spot. And whatever you decide's fine, right, B?
You can abstain too.
No.
Okay.
I'll go with B. I think it's like between
Still
two
like-
bands.
Londo,
Sorry. I like both of B.
Lamita.
Barry.
LA City's not here anymore. Manhattan Beach is not here anymore. PV Estates,
B.
Rancho Palos Verdes,
B.
Redondo Beach,
Very.
Rolling Hills,
I would vote myself.
Rolling Hills Estates,
Barry.
Torrance,
B.
District 2's not here, District 4.
David, I'm sorry, but I haven't consulted with the supervisor. I kind of missed this when I reviewed the agenda, and since they're both from district cities, and I love both of them. I have
It's
to
okay.
abstain. I'm sorry.
No worries, no worries.
You're like, just that you abstain.
Okay, so I am counting 1, 2, 3, 4 for Barry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 for B.
No counting for taste. But B and I are also good
Yes,
friends.
we are.
And we
very much so.
really enjoy getting together, just hanging out, so.
I know, I know.
Great.
So thank
Next
you
item.
very much. I appreciate it. And thank you, Barry.
Thank you both. Okay, we're gonna go to the Transportation Committee, right? Because we can get.
I don't remember what we talked about this month. It was just updates from Metro on their budget. Metro had their ad hoc governance committee meeting yesterday. They came out with 4 alternatives. One of which is staying the same. One could be adding a non-voting transit rider.
Andy's here.
Yeah, and we can send this out too. I think we'll probably want to take another position on the alternatives. We wrote a generic letter a couple months ago about just opposing any changes in general, but now there's actually alternatives that the Metro Board will be considering. Once the Metro Board votes, it will ultimately go to the legislature for their action, and they could do whatever they wanted to, listen to Metro or not. So this is probably not going to be the end of this discussion anytime soon.
Yeah, they've come up with 4 alternatives. One of them is a completely elected board, which would be fascinating for the LA County. Another would be the same board that they have now, but with a non-voting rider representative, which I guess the BART board has, although the BART board is also elected by at large. So anyway, there's different ones. But I think we still, in the COGS, the directors are represented by Terry Dipple there. And I think we all would recommend that there be no changes. We're trying to fix some of them. So, but we'll bring it back. On the biodiversity grant, Kim, you want to say just a few words?
Yes, so I'm very excited. We talked about it a little bit earlier. The total award was 1.6 million over 3 years. About 1 million of it is going directly to cities for their projects, and those were the projects that were listed: Lomita with their bike path, Inglewood with their median project, and the city of Carson will be tree planting. We just estimated conservatively 50,000 to offset that will be going to our budget in this fiscal year. But likely, once we get those contracts with the Rivers and Mountains Conservancy, which will be in the next couple months, we'll have a better idea of the schedule. So it's very exciting. Jackie went to their board meeting for me because I was in New York with my daughter's graduation, which I was very excited. She is now a doctor. So an MD, very exciting. And you can see my report for all of our other achievements.
She's such a good mother. She got sick for her daughter, the new doctor.
Okay, homeless services.
We were going to show you a video. I'm wondering if we should just save it till next month, the video. Moana has done this incredible job. What is it, 2 minutes? Or is it? It's about 3-minute video.
Is there anything else we gotta vote on tonight?
No, I don't think
Gotta
there's
get out of
anything.
here.
I would suggest maybe we save it
Yeah,
just
so
so
we'll
we get
save the video.
exposure it
Yeah,
deserves.
save the video and I had, Kevin was gonna give you an update on the renter protection program. And it's a very interesting update. You want to do that really fast? We've still got 4 or 5 minutes. So.
I'll go through this really quickly. Hi, everyone. Kevin Mania, Housing Project Coordinator and Southwest Sector Liaison. Really quick with this slide, I just want to reintroduce myself as the Southwest Sector Liaison, which is a grant we got from La Casa to provide additional support for our representative on the La Casa board. That is John Mirish, council member, City of Beverly Hills, who is the Southwest Sector representative. In my role, I provide executive summaries to him, staff him at board meetings, but I really wanted to point out that I recently launched a Southwest Sector newsletter, and you were all on that list. I hope you all take a look at it. All the council members in all of our cities receive it, city managers, community development directors, so I just wanted to shout that out. And if you're not on it, please let me know. It just has like a digestible but deeper dive of the La Casa board meeting, so I just wanted to share that. And then I wanted to point out one thing from the board that happened earlier this month is that La Casa has its own, budget of capital deployment funds to invest in affordable housing, to preserve it and all that. And they are nearly done with their bond process. So they have about $66 million of their own funds, and they're bonding that to make $256 million. In April, they voted to approve 10 projects. And then at the May board meeting on the 13th, they approved 10 more projects totaling to 20. And 2 of those projects are in our member cities. One project is within the city of Inglewood, and then the other project is within the city of Carson, which is our rental subsidy there. And then really quickly, as Jackie mentioned, this is a snapshot of our metrics from the Renter Protection Homeless Prevention Program. This is available to all of our member cities. Folks can, get assistance for arrears, security deposits, anything to alleviate a housing crisis, and just wanted to share some information right now. We have 3 service providers. One of them is, as you see on the screen, is the St. Margaret Center. They cover the northern side of the South Bay, and then later I'll go into Watts Labor Community Action Committee, which is the south side of the South Bay, and then we've contracted with the city of Gardena. But yeah, this is here. I guess, David, if you could go back to the first slide of SMC, just wanted to highlight, we're getting a lot of referrals from, the Hawthorne and Inglewood, the Delaware area. We've already provided assistance to 33 folks. And then the next slide, David. A lot of the crisis types that we're seeing is the loss of income, sudden increase in critical expenses, and then we're helping folks with a lot of rental arrears. And with St. Margaret's Center, we've already provided over $180,000 of assistance. And then in the next slide, Watts Labor Community Action Committee started a bit later, so they started in late February, early March, so there's a little less. You're seeing a lot of referrals coming from CD15, but also Gardena and City of Torrance, and the crisis types there, and then the assistance category as well. But yeah, just wanted to share that. Sorry, I couldn't go more into depth, but we ran over time. But we go through a really rigorous approval process to approve assistance. Goes through the staff of the service provider, goes through us. We collect a lot of documentation. So we were the first organized eligible jurisdiction to launch this. So it's going well. So thank you for your time.
Okay, I want to everybody take out your calendar. As you know, John Marish is not running for re-election, and the city selection committee has selected a date for the replacement, who at your last meeting, we endorsed Paige Keller. Yes, Kalajerovich. And it will be, I've been very successful in getting them to have the meeting here in this boardroom on June 11th at 11:45. So remember, your mayor has the vote, and you have to give the mayor has to designate somebody else to vote. It's here, June 11th, 11:45. You should be getting a notice from them, but they just set the date. So that's really, really important. What's going on at the county, I just want to say very briefly, what's going on at the county is that Supervisor Horvath came out, her staff, or they were going to present a motion that affected the entire governance structure. We were very, very upset about it and sent a letter. I think that was at the last meeting that you authorized a letter. Their District 3 reacted like, oh my gosh, you sent a letter. Why didn't you call? And we said, we couldn't call. You put the motion in. Why did you put the motion? You're going to make a motion. You didn't call us. So we had a meeting there yesterday with District 3. And it was a good meeting in which we were able to present why their motion in several ways was ill-conceived and didn't speak to cities. We're hoping that started a dialogue. We're hoping that, and Paige was with us, and we're hoping that at the powers that be, we don't have any problem with them relooking at governance structures and relooking at how these things happen, but we must have a seat at the table. So, I just want to mention, we're gonna have to talk to Supervisor Hahn and Mitchell about this, but it was felt by her staff, by Horvath's staff and us, that it would be very good if Lindsay Horvath came out, saw homeless court, saw some of the things we were doing here. And so we will probably find a way to invite her to come to the South Bay and maybe for a lunch or something, and we can invite the other supervisors too, but it's really important that she see this if she's going to be making motions on governance. And then David has a very, very fast report on SB 799.
Yeah, this has been a roller coaster of a process with Alan's office to try and get the moderate income housing component. We got an update this afternoon, actually, that they're proposing amendments to the bill that would allow us to spend non-public dollars without restraint on moderate income programs, workforce housing. We asked for them to add a minor tweak to it that would allow us to use public sources if those sources are identified for workforce housing. We don't want to preclude ourselves from a new governor coming to the table or a new legislature saying we want to do a workforce housing program down the road and then be stuck not being able to do it because the legislature didn't forward think enough to allow us to do that. So hopefully that will be something that they're amenable to. I think now that we have some potential language, we will very, very soon now be asking for letters of support to support these amendments. So we've been kind of waiting for what that language would look like before we make the ask to all of you.
Question, where would the non-public dollars come from?
So theoretically, if there's a philanthropist or
I think there's a Steve Ballmer Foundation. There are that are doing housing. There are foundations that fund housing.
And the trust is allowed to take private dollars. So
I'm going to skip along. Senior Services, I had a good meeting. I think it was very well received. We get a lot of people at those meetings. But what I really wanted to tell you about is at the last meeting, if you remember, you authorized Bernadette to sign a letter on RENA replacement. And that letter went viral. Apparently, Mike Griffiths from Torrance, who's with Californians for Local Control or whatever, sent it to 2,300 elected officials. And it's gotten into all kinds of newsletters up and down the state. I've talked to people in the Bay Area, I've talked to people in San Diego, and we're all talking about how do we really put this into some kind of an effort. We did talk to Katie Porter's staff because that was an opportunity we had. And we have sent an invitation to every one of the candidates. Really haven't heard back from them. I was thinking, and we're going to be talking, I guess, to some of these people, that maybe we can do some kind of a letter about RENA replacement that we can ask people to sign on to, like we did several years ago with an op-ed, just so we can get a list of cities on record with the new legislature and new governor coming in. Second thing would be after the primary to meet with candidates and to ask legislators, these groups up and down California to meet with their candidates to talk to them. It seems to me now, at least during the after primary season, we should be talking about how it affects cities so they don't come in with their mind already made up, if it isn't already made up already. So if you're interested in more about this, we can talk more. There's all kinds of people up, I was shocked, up and down the state that are upset, but they're not united. So we have to figure out how to make that all work as one, and we'll be bringing more information about that back to you. Instead of going on, Laura, you want to open nominations?
Okay, we're done?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we don't want to.
Okay. We're going to open the nomination for the officers 2026, 2027. It's now open. I know we have one person. Yeah, she left. Is there anybody else that wants to submit their name?
Can I nominate Debbie? Would you do it?
No.
No?
Oh, I don't
I saw
know.
you became the chair of the living, the housing trust.
In other news, I did step forward to chair the housing trust.
Right, I saw that. So that's why I was like, Debbie's got time to do this.
Well,
stuff.
Yes, no. Thank you very much for your confidence. No thanks.
Okay, anybody else? And if not, they can submit. It closes at the next meeting, so you can up until the next meeting. But other than that, upcoming events.
I'm sorry, I just want to make two more announcements. Just so you know, we had a brand new communications group where we had your communications people come together. Colleen and Moana put this together. It was a really great group. They were very enthusiastic. Just like we have, we meet with park directors, we meet with city managers, and we meet with community development. Now we have this new communications group to try and take our message from each of the cities and leverage it. And I think it'll be really effective. And they were very interested in working together, especially in emergencies. And then the other thing that I think I've mentioned this to you before, but it's becoming really important with the trust. We need a treasurer. The law says that a JPA has to have either an employee who's the treasurer, or a city treasurer, or a CPA. And we have this really excellent guy who used to be the treasurer in El Segundo, and he has retired. And he is not, we found out, a CPA. So he does not qualify. He says he's got some other certification, which is actually better than a CPA, but that's not what the law says. So what we've had in the past is we've had a city treasurer who has agreed to be our treasurer. And all we ask for them is to help us with LAIF accounts, to transfer money when we need to transfer money. It's not a big job. They may or may not have signature authority. That's to be decided. So we really need this, and we need it for both the trust and the COG. And it could be the same person, it could be different people, but please, if you can talk to your city manager about whether your treasurer can do this, or your finance director, excuse me, or your treasurer, I don't care, but some city employee. Thank you.
Okay. If that's all, then this meeting is adjourned.
Announcements.
Oh. Yeah, you want to make an announcement?
It's more of an invitation. Next week is at this time. I'm going to be getting the Career Achievement Award from the LA County Bar Criminal Justice Section. So all of you, just wanted to let you know. And if you want to come, I have the information for tables. So just wanted to share that. Okay.
Congratulations. Yeah, another announcement.
Redondo Beach received a letter from HCD stating that we continue to be in substantial compliance with our housing element after we revised our housing element and made it included a mandatory minimum of residential in these mixed use areas rather than just an overlay. So that's good news.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Okay, for real now.